Verde is a really good example. These are schools with decently high enrollment numbers. Heritage, I think, has 2,700 kids. Decently high enrollment numbers that are playing lower division football, where, then you have a team like Redlands East Valley or us at Murrieta Valley or Eisenhower, where you got 2,200 kids playing in the inland division. So, yeah, I think that's something you got to look at. I mean, San G's got a good football team. Citrus Hill last year was phenomenal. Rancho Verde's good every year. I think that's something you got to look at. How are these divisions drawn?
Do you think that San G this year, Citrus Hill last year, say throw them in the Inland Valley League, or even one of those leagues up in the Inland Division, where do you think they come out?
In the Southwestern League or the Big Eight?
In general, maybe a rough out.
Yeah, I feel like, boy, the Southwestern League's a tough place to play. Yeah. Temecula Valley's a good football team. You look at Temecula Valley without Kyle Plantier, he didn't play. Temecula Valley lost to Tockets 15-14.
Yeah.
Now Tockets was a 3-point loss to, and I don't want to get into the score extrapolator, but that was Temecula Valley without their best player, who you had Tockets on the ropes 15-14. Murrieta Mesa, who didn't win a league game in our league, beat Tockets by a touchdown. So it gets dicey up there. You get in that Southwestern League, that Big Eight, and you're talking about real football every single week.
All right, once again, we are live at Adrenaline Athletic Training in Corona for the Week 12 edition of the Blitz, the quarterfinal edition. We've got head coach Vinny Fazio from Murrieta Valley. I'm Pep, and that's Kyle, and we're taking a look at the Inland Division right now. We've got the brackets up. Anyone care to make some predictions here for these quarterfinal matchups? I mean, because I think a lot of people want to see the Vista Murrieta Norco on one side, and then maybe a Santiago Centennial rematch on the other.
I said on the You Pick'em show that I think Rancho Cucamonga would win, just because I just think they're a really good team. Norco's playing very well.
Did you really say that?
I really did.
Kyle.
I just think Rancho Cucamonga is the better team. It's really that simple. I love what that defense has. I think they'll be able to shut down Victor Viramonte's passing game, stuff 8 in the box, and be able to slow down Corey Young enough. On the other side, they have the weapons on offense to score. They beat Norco once. They can do it again.
How dare you. Coach, please tell me you got Norco.
Well, that's going to be a good game. We played Rancho, and I think Rancho is one of the few teams that can match physicality with Norco's offense, which is a check for them. I think that's probably the best. I think that's the one game in the Inland Division where you look at it and go, boy, that's a pick-em game. I mean, I think that one could go either way. It's at Rancho, so you got to give them a little bit of advantage there. Norco's a hard place to play when they get a home game. Norco's probably improved more than any other team in the division. So, well, I really think that's a pick'em game. If you twisted my arm, I'd probably have to say Rancho. But I like Norco. I like Corey Young. I mean, I think that game could go either way.
I just feel like they're just getting better. I've seen them the last couple of weeks, and I thought, oh my gosh. I mean, Norco. I'm not Dave Zink and picking him to win the finals like he did last week, but I'm just saying if it made it to the finals or at least the semis, I would not be completely surprised.
Yeah, no, and as we're all saying, Norco could absolutely win this football game. They're not going in here with no chance. At this point, I just would pick Rancho.
I think it'll be a great game.
All right, we've got some softball girls back here working out here at Adrenaline Athletic Training. Now, Leonard Russell is the head football coach here at Adrenaline. And I see him right over here. He's actually going to be working with...
Arizona State grad?
He is. He's an ASU grad. And if you want to go back even farther than that, he's a Long Beach Poly grad, which Coach Fazio knows Leonard in a roundabout way, right? Coach, can you talk about your relationship and how you know Leonard?
One of the coolest Leonard Russell stories. I just got off the phone with my dad. It's funny. We were just talking about Leonard Russell. One of the cool Leonard Russell stories, when he was at Long Beach Poly, they were one of the first teams to ever get in single-back offense. At that time, everybody was two-back, full-back, lead blocker, running power and lead and ISO. And Long Beach Poly, when Fontana was getting ready to play him, Leonard Russell's year, my dad and Coach Brook were sitting going, well, they can't run the ball with no fullback. No one can run the ball without a fullback. You got to have a fullback. How are they going to run with no fullback? And then they put Leonard Russell back there and handed him the ball in that single back zone. They were one of the first teams to do that in high school, was with big Leonard Russell, man, running single back zone. And I think they beat Fontana 10-9 with the big man running the ball. So my dad still tells Leonard Russell stories all the time, man. I've never met Leonard Russell, but my dad tells stories all the time.
Well, we got Leonard Russell to your right, and there's the legendary Leonard Russell and Vinny Fazio meeting at last.
my dad tells stories about you all the time. He's at Montana High School. He's a defensive coordinator at Montana.
That's the rain game at Long Beach Poly. 1986,
Absolutely.
10-9.
10-9. He tells it all the time. Running single back. My dad couldn't believe that anybody could have just a single back. Well, they don't even have a fullback. How are they going to run the ball with no fullback?
That's what we did.
You were your own fullback.
That's right. 27 counter, one back. We called it ace formation, two tights, and we just came at y'all. It was a great game. Y'all had Nigel Clay that year.
Nigel Clay, man.
Yeah,
that was a great team.
Yeah, I remember that. That was wonderful. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I hear Leonard Russell stories all the time, man. When my dad used to tell bedtime stories, Leonard Russell was the bad guy. He was the bad guy, man.
That was a great game. We came down here that year, and actually we beat Fontana to be able to go to the state championship game against Edison at Anaheim Stadium that year. So yeah, I remember that. Great memories.
Well, it's nice to meet you.
Yes, sir.
Nice
Good to meet you, man. Good luck with everything you're doing down there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Two legends meeting here at Adrenaline.
Yeah. See, he's not so bad, right? Leonard's a good. Yeah.
He's still pretty good, dude.
I wouldn't want to tackle Leonard Russell, that's for sure.
Making dreams come true on the Blitz.
Dreams are, in this case, nightmares, Vinny.
Hey, at least I'm glad he's not running me over, man. That's the only thing I'm happy about. I remember the other guy at Long Beach Poly that I would be remiss if I didn't mention was Herman Ho Ching. He was a running back that we played against. We played Long Beach Poly when I was at Fontana my junior and senior year. And I remember Herman Ho Ching was their running back running that single back zone, and I was a scary dude, man. Like I said, I avoid any talk about Herman Ho Ching at any cost.
All right, back here on the Blitz, that was our Inland Division preview, talking about some of the matchups and who we think might move on. Leonard Russell going back to his Long Beach Poly days. Now back to the playoff brackets. Let's go to the Central Division. And, you know, like we said, the theme of this week is kind of that rematch, the get-back games. And can Elsinore get back against the Rancho Verde? We've talked off the air about how dominant the Mustangs have been in this division. Is there any roadblock between Rancho Verde and the finals?
You know, once again, I don't think so. I think there's just too many ways they can hurt you. You mentioned Shariron Jones can hurt you with his arm and his legs back there at quarterback. Kashawn Slaughter's an all-CIF running back. You add in athletes like Cedric Peterson, a lineman like Deontay Estes, and Tavita Halolilo. There's just too many guys, and I don't think any team in the Central Division can really keep up with them except maybe Heritage. And I really think that's the finals matchup we're headed for. Similar to the Inland Division, I really think it's going to be, you know, we have clearly the two best teams in that division. Everyone else is just kind of hanging on, seeing how far they can go until they lose to one of those teams.
Well, Elsinore beat Rancho Verde last year.
They did.
It's possible. On their field. It is possible. Yes,
but Rancho Verde got them back in the playoffs.
They did. And it was 42-23, I believe, earlier this season. So, Coach, I mean, you played Elsinore, right? I mean, so what do they have to do to, you know, line up against a very skilled and athletic Rancho Verde team?
I think two things that are interesting about this game. The first thing is Rancho Verde is different defensively in terms of scheme than they've been in the past. In the past, they've been a 4-3 quarters coverage, cover two team. This year, they're more of a bear front. You guys remember the old bear, old Buddy Ryan bear for the Chicago Bears? Rancho Verde has been a bear team most of the year this year, and their first game this year was against Elsinore, and I don't know that Elsinore had any time to prepare for that bear front. And so the first time they really saw it was in the game. So I think that maybe Elsinore now has some time to prepare for that bear front, get their wing tee offense ready. You know, maybe will lend itself to be able to move the ball a little bit. The problem for Elsinore is they're typically a man coverage team, a cover zero man coverage team. And it's hard to play man coverage against athletic teams. And Rancho Verde is a supremely athletic team. So I just don't know if they can match up man-to-man, and I don't know if they'll get out of that man coverage. You know, and it's hard to change what you do this late in the season, and you know, I just don't know if they can go man-to-man and play that against Rancho Verde and get enough stops.
You know, it's tough beating at the same time, as we mentioned, twice in one season. Elsinore is back home for this one. Yeah. Maybe having seen that team previously, they can game plan just a little bit better. I don't know. I think Elsinore will at least make it closer, but I think Rancho Verde moves on out of this.
My concern is the wing tee offense, you know, for the most part, doesn't lend itself to scoring, you know, 45, 50 points a game. And I think to beat Rancho Verde, Elsinore's going to have to put up a lot of points, get into a shootout, just the style of offense they run. I don't know if they'll be able to keep up.
Again, can they keep the ball away from them a little bit? I mean, I think that's part of the key. You know, can Shane Pico run for enough first downs to keep them off the field? Yeah. I think that's the key. But again, I'm kind of with you guys on this one. I think we're talking a collision course in this division. You know, I think Heritage and Rancho Verde are head and shoulders above everybody else.
I will say, I believe in the Poly Bears, having seen them that's a team that's not to be overlooked. I do think we do have 2 clear favorites, but I think if there's one team that can crash the party, it's the Poly Bears.
All right, speaking of Poly, let's go to that Colony game. Riverside Poly winning their first playoff game last week against Summit, and it was the first time since 2007 that Riverside Poly has advanced in the playoffs. And Kyle, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, this is not the Riverside Poly Bears that we've seen in the last couple of years, and Dennis Brown has been doing some great things at Poly.
You know, when I first started this job in February, this is my first year covering high school football. I got here, everyone said, oh yeah, Riverside Poly, you know, don't worry about them, they're not worth paying attention to. I showed up to their opener against Citrus Hill, I'm like, these guys can play a little bit. And then you saw after that, they just kept rolling and rolling and rolling. Everything that I'd heard of or about Riverside Poly turned out to be false. They're very athletic. They've got some size. They're good offensively and defensively. We've seen them put up 57 points. We've also seen them win, tough defensive battles, 13-6 over Arlington, where they had to get stops. This is a team that I think will have no problems with Colony. It's that semifinal matchup potentially against Heritage that's going to be really, really interesting. I think Heritage would probably go in as the favorite, but I think anyone counting Poly out is making a big mistake.
And if you want to look into your crystal ball to the next round, Heritage is on the road Friday, Poly's at home, so that means Heritage would be home the following week.
I think that right there might be the most potentially competitive semifinal game we have in all of our divisions.
Well, I mean, Arlington hung with Heritage for a while, and if you go back to that Arlington Poly game, and Coach, we can put this through that formula, whatever you had, but I mean, it was 13-6 when Poly beat Arlington. I mean, so there were 2 competitive games right there.
Yeah, I think, are you guys going to bring Mark Green out next? Is he the next guy to come out? You're bringing out all my old nightmare guys. Mark Green from Riverside Poly.
I'm sure Leonard has his number. We can round him up.
Dave Zink definitely does.
Yeah,
I'll never forget Mark Green, man. But I think it's good for high school football in this area when Riverside Poly's good.
Yeah,
I think it adds something to high school football in the area, and they're good. I mean, don't make no mistake, they're good. One deal with Arlington matches up a little bit with Heritage because of their physicality. I think that's something that Heritage is able to overwhelm people because they're so physical and they're so tough up front, and you have to match that. And I think one thing Arlington and Coach McCarthy can do is they can match physicality pretty good.
Yeah.
So I do think that's a good matchup for Arlington. And part of the reason why they were able to stay in the game. But boy, I look at Heritage, I look at their talent, I look at their toughness and physicality, how well coached they are. And
so no problem with La Quinta, right, on Friday for Heritage?
Well, I like Coach Armstrong, man, and Coach Armstrong, don't hold it against you. You've done a great job. They've had a bunch of injuries at La Quinta. They had their top 3 running backs have gone out with injury, and they had another guy that never even played running back before step in and run for like 2,000 yards.
Jeez.
So Coach Armstrong's done a fabulous job with La Quinta. Beat my old Eisenhower Eagles, man, and did a great job in that game. So much love to Coach Armstrong. That's tough. It's a tough draw for them. La Quinta is physical and they are tough. So I expect them to fight and put it up their best fight. But I think Heritage and Rancho Verde, I think it's a collision course.
Yeah,
man.
It sure looks like it. Now, Riverside Poly, they've got Colony on Friday, and as we mentioned, if they win and if Heritage wins, they would meet in the semis. Now, the last time Poly won that game, we told you 2007. Well, Jake Marisnik, Major League Baseball player for the Miami Marlins, was part of that team in 2007, and he was on the sideline this past Friday when Riverside Poly got their first playoff win since he was playing for the Bears in 2007. So we caught up with him a little bit, talked about his Major League Baseball career, his big call-up to the big leagues this season, as well as what does he remember from beating Murrieta Valley in the first round, and his Bears eventually lost to Palm Springs in the second round that year of the CIF playoffs.
I just remember being with those guys, and just watching these players out here, it's fun to watch. And the guys I was with back then were awesome. I'm still good friends with them, and we talk about those games. We talk about a game against Murrieta Valley that we won and the game we lost against Palm Springs. So pretty excited for this team out here.
What round did you guys lose in?
We lost in the second round. Lost in the second round of Palm Springs.
Baseball obviously worked out for you, but do you miss football at all? Do you like being around the game and all that?
Oh, I love being around it. It was tough for me to give it up, but with the choice I made, I feel like I made the right decision, and I love doing what I do. But coming out here and watching these guys is awesome. My first year of Major League Baseball kind of taught me the side of competing. You need to go out there and you need to compete every day, and I think you can take that into every aspect of life, whether it's football, whether it's somewhere else in work. You just got to go and you got to make something happen. if you're not feeling good that day, you just got to go out and you got to make it happen. That's kind of what it taught me.
Last question: best pitcher you faced this season?
Best pitcher I faced? It'd have to be Cy Young winner, Clayton Kershaw. I got an at bat off him, and his stuff is really good.
All right, so Jake Marisnick reflecting back on his glory days as a Riverside Poly Bear and helping them win a playoff game, and Riverside Poly back to their winning ways, beating Summit last week in their playoff opener. Let's before we exit the Central Division, let's touch on Paloma Valley and Kaiser one more time. Paloma Valley, one of the highest scoring teams in the state, but they get a Kaiser team that I actually picked to lose last week. I'm embarrassed by saying that, but I picked them to lose, and they hung 49 on Canyon Springs. So
49-0.
49-0. I just rub it in there.
It wasn't like it was 49-28. It was 49-zip.
49-zip. So they're doing it with defense, and now they're scoring a lot of points too. And Coach, I think you said it. The longer we go into the season, the deeper we go, the better Kaiser's getting.
Every year. I mean, that's an every year thing. It's a credit to Coach Zelaya and his staff. Those guys get better I mean, last year it was the same way. Early in the year, they had some tough losses, suspect losses, and close games that people thought maybe should have been blowouts. And by the end of the year, they're beating Heritage and Rancho Verde back-to-back to win the CIF championship. So you never count Kaiser out, especially late in the year. Boy, I think that's a really competitive game. And you look at Paloma Valley's schedule, and it's not really a great schedule. I mean, they beat Elsinore, which is a nice win.
Yeah.
But really, who has Paloma Valley beaten? You look at their schedule, and they don't have really any. They beat San Bernardino High School. I mean, they don't have a lot of quality wins there. So I think at this point, when you don't play as good of a schedule, sometimes that hurts you, in the second round, third round of the playoffs. So
and they went to overtime with Moreno Valley. That was maybe like their only true non-league test was Moreno Valley, an overtime game.
At some point, I think Paloma Valley's got to step their non-league schedule up if they're going to become a team that's a factor late in the playoff rounds. You can't go hammer teams that are below your level and expect to be ready to play against the Kaisers and the Heritages and the Rancho Verdes when you get in the second, third round of the playoffs.
When Kaiser got blown up by Riverside Poly and lost to a Cajon team that then went winless in the CBL.
I remember that.
I was one of the people that left the Cats for dead. I said, you know what, this is clearly a year where they just don't have it. They've had a sophomore running back really step up. Joshua Johnson has very quietly been one of the better running backs in the area. You add that to Raymond Padilla, who can run the ball at quarterback. And we talked about, Paloma Valley, they score a lot of points. They've given up their share of points, too. There's been a couple games where they've given up 28, 35, 48, I believe, to Heritage. So Paloma Valley, while for the most part they come out on the winning end of a shootout, Kaiser, if they control the ball, they run it down Paloma Valley's throats and play keep away from Brett Bowman, their offense. It's a matchup that you definitely like for Kaiser. I think this is going to be the most competitive game of all the Central Division playoff games, and I really could see either team winning it. But there's no question. I think if you look at just the total resume they've put together right now, I think you probably have to lean toward Kaiser a little bit.
Again, great quarterback play for Paloma Valley. They're really good on the O-line. They're a good football team. I mean, they're a good football team. I just think in some ways it's a disadvantage when you go through a year, and really if you take Heritage off their schedule, which is a game they lost by 3 touchdowns. They were really blown out of that game. So you take that game off their schedule, you look at who are their wins against. Elsinore's a nice win. I mean, anytime you beat Elsinore, you've accomplished something. But outside of that win, you really look at it and say, where are their wins? Where have their wins come from? And again, Kaiser's got some tough losses too, but I think Kaiser gets better as you go. They've got a long history of getting better late in the year.
In fairness, the Sunkist League was pretty terrible this year, so it's not like Kaiser also had a total gamut. So
that's true.
So there is a little bit of an equalizer there.
That's true.
All right, so see if the defending CIF champs in the Central can go on the road and knock off a high-octane Paloma Valley squad and advance into the Central Division semifinals. Once again, we're here at Adrenaline Athletic Training in Corona. We got to thank our gracious host. They always do a great job here. And Coach, it's kind of funny to see a menacing, intimidating figure like Leonard Russell, who ran over guys in the National Football League, and he's out there working with these little girls who are on a softball team. And he's like one of those positive yellers, like, come on, you can do it. I know you can do it. A little faster, come on, I mean, isn't it kind of funny to see him in this setting?
I'll tell you what, I bet he gets their best effort.
Yeah, I bet.
I bet nobody's telling him, no, I'm not going to go hard on this one.
Yeah,
I bet they go. I would go. I might go out there and run right now if he came over here.
I think he could still play. I mean, he's still in great shape.
Absolutely. He looks phenomenal. Holy smoke. Yeah, he looks great, man. Like I said, I'm staying as far away from him as he can. He was nice to me, so that was good.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. He surprised me. I'm a fellow Arizona State grad. He gave me an autographed jersey on the air. I was like, wow. So it's nice when a guy that's that big, could probably squeeze your skull, has a really nice personality. It makes you feel a little safer.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, moving on now to the Eastern Division. And the top seed, San Gorgonio, undefeated on the season, taking on Tockwitz. And, I said in the beginning that I thought San Gorgonio could run the table, go undefeated, win CIF. But I don't know. My heart wants to pick Tockwitz a little bit. Coach Gregovich hit me up on Twitter and said, get your popcorn ready because it's going to be a great game on Friday. I think I'm still going with San G, but there's a part of me that says, I want to pick Tockwitz here.
I really think if you look at all of our top seeds, San G's the one that kind of has the toughest playoff test because they're going to have to beat Tockwitz and then beat either Norte Vista or Oak Hills, neither of whom are pushovers, and then probably have to take on Serrano, which you could argue in any given year is probably, no offense, Vinny, one of the most, arguably the best coach team in the entire Inland Empire when you look at, just the players they have and what they accomplish, Mahalchik and staff up there. So San G is going to have a really tough test throughout the rest of the season. And they haven't had a gamut like this of 3 straight games that are this tough. They beat Ukaipa, but once again, it's not like they had 3 games in a row like this all season. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Spartans respond.
That was a 1-point game, too, I believe, with Ukaipa, right?
Yeah, 32-31.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and they also had to survive against Colton, 42-39. So I think I'm still picking Sanji, but I think this is the first game of a very tough stretch for the Spartans. The Titans can play. They got some athletes. We saw them push Citrus Hill. Coach Gregovich really turned around a program, took it from the dumps to a right there in the top level very quickly. This is going to be one of the more entertaining games I think we're going to see all weekend.
A lot of points, no shortage of points, I think, in this one.
If there's a Vegas line, I think it might be the over-under would be 85. I mean, this is going to be a shootout.
I think the deal with Tockwitz is their defense. They play really good defense, and can that defense tackle Sanji's athletes in space? Can they tackle Rashad Mills? Can they tackle Wesley Hill? Can they tackle those athletes in space? What's their answer for the Metters kid outside as an outside receiver? There's so many athletes that they can get in space. And how does Tockwitz match up with those athletes, I think, is the question. And then can Tockwitz do enough offensively? The games they've struggled in, the
Murrieta Mesa.
Lost to Murrieta Mesa, who's good defensively. The loss to, or the game with Temecula Valley, 15-14. The games they've struggled in, they've struggled to do enough offensively. Can they do enough offensively to offset that Sanji offense, which is going to score? Sanji's going to score. They're not going to shut Sanji out. So to win the game, Tockwitz is going to have to score in the 30s or 40s to have a chance to win. And can they do enough? Can they make enough plays offensively to do that?
The other thing that concerns me is the way they finished that Citrus Hill game. You're up 21-0 on a team like that, and then to give up the points they did at the very end. Sanji's offense this year is every bit as good as Citrus Hill's. So I think that's the other thing, too. Even if Tockwitz gets up early, they're susceptible to giving up a big run.
Well, going back to the game, I was at the Tockwitz-Citrus Hill game, and like you said, they scored 21, and then I think Citrus Hill had 28 unanswered. They just kind of roared back between the second and third quarters. And Tockwitz hung in there. They actually made some defensive plays that got them back into the game, and they had a field goal at the end to try to tie this to force overtime. So Citrus Hill's kind of had that firm grip on the Mountain Pass League in recent years, but this was almost the year Tockwitz knocked them off. And for San Gorgonio, I talked to Coach Geringer a little bit, and I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but I kind of feel like they're turning into the Centennial of San Bernardino County. Just play fast, score fast. You know what I mean, Coach? Like, play fast, score fast, put a lot of points on the board, and just, you got good skill position players.
I will say, win at least 3 titles, and then you can make a claim like that. But I get what he's getting at.
Yes, their style of play. He wants to play fast, up-tempo. He's got the Centennial roots. And, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Coach, in my opinion, I've seen a lot of the Eastern Division players, and I feel like a lot of times the difference between that level and the higher levels, a lot of times is the size and the physicality. The speedy athletes, in some ways, can be interchangeable. We see speed guys at the lower levels that can play at the Inland Division. We mentioned Dante Dion, Jamal Williams, KJ Young, PJ Walker. So I feel like Sanji's athletes are at that level this year. A guy like Rasheed Mills could probably succeed. I mean, what do you make of the overall skill level and how many of them they have on the outside?
Yeah, Sanji's, you know, when I was at Eisenhower, we threw against Sanji in the offseason. So I saw Sanji throw. The Rashad Mills kid is humongous. I mean, he's this big, good-looking dude. I mean, he looks great. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong with him. No, I think he could play. You know, he could play in the Southwestern League. He's a kid that could. I think the difference, as you move down in the division levels, I think part of it is not only does the players get watered down a little bit just because there's so many schools, I think the coaching gets watered down a little bit. So you have places where you have, you know, Coach Geringer, and he's got, you know, a couple coaches, assistants, but they don't have 10 coaches. There are 12 coaches, you know, like you have at Vista Murrieta where you have 20, or at our place where you have, you know, 12 or 13 pretty good coaches, or Chaparral where you have 10 or 12, 13 pretty good coaches. I think that gets watered down as you move down, and so it's harder to technically get good at the small things, the little techniques, the 6-inch step on the down block.
But the raw skill that we see some of those guys.
Oh, yeah, that dude could play. Oh, yeah, we'd take that guy. I mean, I don't know if that's a violation or whatever, but that dude can ball, man.
I mean, if he moves to Murrieta Valley.
Yeah, he's a senior. He's a senior, so no pressure there. But, yeah, no, he can play. That's a good player.
Yeah, and Michael Stewart at Talkwit's another guy that's an absolute stud. So
KJ Young. I mean, KJ Young.
He was
He's at Oklahoma for a reason.
That guy can ball. Absolutely. So.
All right, moving on in the Eastern Division, Norta Vista and Oak Hills. We'll let Kyle talk about Oak Hills because he's familiar with the high desert. But Norta Vista, it's kind of weird. I've had this bugaboo all season long that when I go to the Norta Vista games, they play awful. So let me set this up for you guys real quick. So I go to Norta Vista, and they're up 10-0, okay? I get there just in time to see Norta Vista kick a field goal. It's 10-zip. I'm like, okay, what does Silverado do? They take the ensuing kickoff back for a touchdown. Norta Vista gets the ball. They pick it off, kick a field goal. We're 10-10 at the half, all right? 10-10. I leave. They call in the final score, 38-16 Norta Vista. And I heard Silverado didn't score their touchdown in the second half till the very end of the game. So it was 38-10 for a majority of the game. So I'm going to stay away from Oak Hills. So I'm pushing Novi into the next round just for the simple fact that I'm not going to be there.
I'll be there. And this is going to be a very interesting test for Novi. I think this is going to be the most difficult game they've played all year since they played King and lost by 20. Oak Hills is another team down in the lower divisions that's got crazy athletes. Robert Kistner, who you might remember from when he was down here as one of the better coaches around. Oak Hills, they don't have their best running back. DeJounte Fletcher snapped his ankle against Serrano a few weeks ago, but they still have a guy in Gino Mastandre who's one of those D1 caliber athletes, you know, 2,000 yards, 22 touchdowns. Quarterback Nolan Brammer, 28 touchdowns, 6 picks, throws balls on a dime even though he's not that big. And Oak Hills has a pretty good history of winning in the short time they've been around. Also, one thing working against Novi, just to be blunt, the MRL is significantly better than the River Valley League. Oak Hills went in and, you know, had to play, you know, a good Serrano team, a good Apple Valley team. Hesperia made the playoffs, and they played a good Burroughs team in the regular season. You look at Novi, I mean, it's not their fault, but the River Valley League's just not that good. It's not that deep. And I think that's something that's going to be working against them. It's going to be cold. It's going to be rainy. I think it's going to be 43 degrees is what weather.com said. There's about a 30% chance of rain. And I think that Oak Hills, they just know how to play in that, take that with a tougher schedule. And I think as many good athletes as Novi has, they are going to be challenged to match Oak Hills level.
You better take your Justin Bieber parka up there that you've been waiting to break out. So.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Hanukkah's coming up. It'll be my early Hanukkah gift.
Justin Bieber parka and matching.
Don't forget the Dora the Explorer backpack.
Dora the Explorer. I actually have one of those at home. One of my daughters. That's a true story. All right, Coach. Let's look at the other side of the bracket here. Citrus Hill taking on Apple Valley. Moreno Valley taking on Serrano. I mean,
high desert versus Riverside all around.
It really is. It really is. I mean, so I want to say Citrus Hill. I want to say Moval, but no. I mean, Serrano's a tough dude to get past in that quarterfinal matchup. You're shaking your head, yes. I mean, Serrano, yeah.
Yeah, Coach, I mean, from your view down here, looking up at Serrano and Ray Mahalchek, and also Oak Hills has been that new program on the block. What do you see out of those programs?
I think Serrano is a cut above. 4
straight semifinal appearances. Oh, yeah, the resume is there.
No, they're for real. Last year I went and watched their game against Carter in the semifinals, and that was probably the best team Carter's ever had. Carter was fabulous, and Serrano just does their thing. They run the ball, they're physical, they play hard on defense, they hit you. They always have enough athletes. They're not overwhelming athletically. They're not a good 7-on-7 team. We threw against them one year at Carter, and you look at them, you go, well, these guys aren't. And then when they get their stuff on, they're pretty good. So yeah, they're good. I think Serrano is we'll get through there, and I think it sets up Serrano and Citrus Hill in a rematch of the finals from last year. And a game that should be a fabulous football game with 2 really good teams.
Yeah, that last game, I expect Citrus Hill to go, but have no problems with Apple Valley. Apple Valley is a decent team defensively, but
up there.
That's up there.
Stadium. Yeah. Great stadium, though. Apple Valley, you guys got a great stadium, man. I love playing there. I used to love playing there at Fontana. Great stadium.
Good old Newton T. Bass.
Yeah, and it's a winner. It's like a oasis in the desert. It's a great stadium. I love Apple Valley Stadium, man.
The grass is more dirt now, but
well, I don't know about the field, but I know the stadium's really nice.
So it'll be interesting to see. It's always fun to see. I think sometimes down here we see all the same teams, so it's kind of fun seeing those teams from the Palm Desert area and the high desert. Teams you don't always see. Just how those other regions compare.
Yeah, no, it's good football. The high desert can play, and especially Serrano. Serrano is not a typical high desert team. Serrano could come down and play, and they can insert them in most leagues. I don't know if they're depth-wise are a Big 8 or a Southwestern team, but I mean, you could put them in a lot of leagues, and they would be just fine. I mean, they would be just fine in the CBL. Serrano would come down and see, and they'd be just fine. I mean, they're a good football team.
Let's play the common opponent game one more time and crunch this formula. Okay, so they both played Hemet. Moreno Valley won 21-19. Okay, 21-19, 2-point game. Serrano opened with him in the playoffs last week, 45-6.
Yeah, that's not a good score extrapolator.
Yeah, crunch those numbers.
No, that's not a good score extrapolator. But I think if you win, you win.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to look at a win and say, well, they won by this, but they won by this. I mean, every game is individual, and they all kind of go different, and it's hard to take scores. I think wins are wins and losses are losses, and you kind of just got to look at it like that.
Because I think Oak Hills, did they lose to Silverado? I was looking at
No, Oak Hills beat them. Serrano actually lost to Silverado 13-12, but that was when they...
Novi beat Silverado, but Silverado beat Serrano, but what does that mean?
I don't think you can always... It doesn't work 100%, although Coach Swanstrom swears by it, so if you're watching Coach Swanstrom, I'm not doubting your score extrapolator, but it doesn't always work that way. Different games, matchups make fights and matchups make games, and so you can't always look at it that way, but boy, I like Serrano's team.
I think we look at all 3 brackets we talked about. You have 3 games where you're 99% sure one team's going to come out on top. Then you have one game, and it's always that game that's second on the bracket right now. That seems to be the toss-up game. Novi Oak Hills, Norco or Rancho Cucamonga, and Kaiser Paloma. It seems like, really those are the games that are going to be competitive this week.
All right, let's move on to the East Valley division before we wrap things up. Harupa Hills, I guess you could say they survived a scare against Arrowhead Christian in the first round. Maybe it was a wake-up call to get refocused for the Spartans moving forward. They've got Shadow Hills. I'm going to punch up the brackets, but let's talk about it. Is Harupa Hills still the top seed and the team to beat in this division?
We've talked about all season long that this is the most wide-open division, so you could argue that none of the top 4 seeds are really the team to beat. You could absolutely see, one of those lower teams step up. Eric Paul Johnson picked Big Bear. I think they're number 3 to win it all.
I had Linfield, by the way.
Yeah.
Who are they playing? This Friday.
But I mean, it's such
this
is such a wide open division, really, and we've said it all year. The only division that doesn't have a clear-cut 1-2. You look at all 8 teams left. I think you could reasonably see all 8 teams make it. I mean, Citrus Valley, Big Bear, Harupa Hills, Shadow Hills, St. Margaret's, Rim. Each of those teams has a legitimate chance to say, yeah, we have a finals run in us.
You guys know more about this stuff than me.
Oh, come on,
Let me ask you this. What's Harupa Hills doing in a division with Arrowhead Christian Academy? I mean, just look at the enrollment numbers of those schools.
Yeah.
What are those 2 schools doing in the same division? Harupa Hills needs to be playing. They need to be playing in the Eastern Division playoffs.
Yeah.
They need to be playing in the Central Division playoffs. There's too many kids at that school. I know it was a new school a couple years ago, but
But they should win this. I mean, they've got to win this.
They got way more kids. They got way more people.
Well, how about Citrus Valley? I mean, Citrus Valley's a pretty big school.
I think that, but now you're starting to get a little more
They're going to the CBL. I mean, so they're making a huge jump.
Yeah, you're starting to get a little more equitable, but Arrowhead Christian Academy, 300 kids in the school. I mean, you know, come on. I love Arrowhead, and what a great job they did being in that game. I mean, give Arrowhead Christian Academy a ton of credit for being in that game. But I think you talked about these big public schools playing against reasonably small, you know, many of those are private schools, and there's just not a lot of equity there. I mean, this is not an equitable division in terms of competitive balance. They're going to fix that. Hopefully, the CIF's got some work to do. They got to look at those things and get some of that fixed.
Well, speaking of Citrus Valley, a lot of guys on their roster, I think between 70 and 80. They're going to Big Bear. I checked, there's only 28 guys on the Big Bear roster right now. Citrus Valley beat your Fillmore Flashes last week, but now they have a trip up the mountain.
I love the Fillmore Flashes, man. Coach Garner, I love you, man. Great job. That is a tough division. Again, I think Fillmore has 600 students, and they're drawing Citrus Valley on the road. So that's a tough draw. It's a tough draw for Big Bear, too.
Because Fillmore's on the way to, like, Santa Barbara, right? Like Piru, Santa Paula.
Up through Ventura, Santa Paula. It's way up there. So that's a long trip to play a big school.
Yeah.
So again, you know, but without getting too far into that, I think it's a tough draw for Big Bear. Citrus Valley's got a lot of students. They're a good team. I watched them on film against Murrieta Mesa, and Murrieta Mesa handled them, but Citrus Valley battled and was able to stick around in that game and battle a little bit. So, I think Citrus Valley probably has a little bit of an edge, but I'll tell you one thing, Big Bear, is that's a cool place to coach. What a good job, man.
You know what? They don't have lights, though, up there, right?
No.
So I wonder how they're playing this. Is that what they're doing for Friday night?
They bring in lights. They play at the middle school, and they're able to bring in some lights to play those Friday night games. So they actually don't even play on Big Bear High Campus.
In the middle of the forest, they just set up some lights and go for it.
One of the most beautiful settings you could ever have for a game, with the trees and the cabins. There's cabins right off beautiful place to play a high school football game. It'll be cold. It's different. It is. If you've never played at Big Bear, it's different, and that'll be different for Citrus Valley. If it's up there, that's a different place to play. It's not like playing at whatever, Drupa Hills, or it's not like that. It's a different place.
Yeah, the elevation could definitely play a role. The other thing, speaking of teams up the mountain, Rim of the World, they're the defending East Valley Division champions. They're playing a very good St. Margaret's team that came in as the #2 seed. I think one thing that always helps Rim is they were an Eastern Division team a couple years ago, so they're used to playing and coaching at that high level. I mean, we saw they had Jacob Taylor go to Army last year. When was the last time you had a D1 kid out of this division? So, I mean, I think Rim of the World, it's sort of interesting. You can never really count the Fighting Scots out.
I don't count the Fighting Scots out. They're extraordinarily well coached. I mean, that guy, Coach Gradias, does a fabulous job. No, I never count them out. You're making a mistake if you count Rim of the World out. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the running back is Jacob Taylor's brother, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you probably got a little bit of talent there too. So, no, I don't count them out at all. I think that's open. St. Margaret's a good football team. I think they're one of the teams that is positioned to be able to play with those bigger schools. One of the smaller schools. So, I think they got a good chance. But Rim of the World's a good football team.
Do we think all 4 of these games are toss-ups? I'm kind of leaning that way. I could see.
I'd love to see Big Bear and Rim win, and that way we'd have like an all-mountain semifinal up there. Are they rivals? They got to be rivals, right?
Be. Yeah. Let's start that.
Yeah,
Let's start a trophy. What
do we call it?
Sweatshirt.
The perpetual Pep Trophy. You guys can have this old stinky sweater.
Let's get a prize up there. Let's get that a rivalry game.
Pep's daughter's Dora the Explorer backpack.
Yeah, the Dora the Explorer backpack. Put it in a nice case, and the winner can wear it around campus.
Gold-plated.
One more time, the common opponent game. What'd you call it? The extrapolator?
Score extrapolator.
Okay, so St. Margaret's beat Linfield Christian 23-7 earlier this year. Rim won 38-37 in overtime against Linfield Christian. So
there you go. Score extrapolators. Whatever St. Margaret's.
Whatever that's worth. All right. Before we go, we got to do the Tell Me Why game. We didn't do this last week, but Coach, here's what we do: is we throw in some I don't know, what would you call them?
Basically, we're going to make a statement, and you have to tell me why it's true. Even if you don't believe it, you have to make the argument for it. So Pep's going to start, I'll answer, and then we'll do one where I ask and you answer.
So, for example, if I said, Kyle, tell me why aliens are real. Even if he doesn't believe in aliens, he's got to make a case.
The universe is so big, there's got to be something out there.
There you go.
That's a good argument.
All right.
Very solid.
Kyle and Coach, feel free to jump in here. Tell me why Riverside Poly will reach the Central Division Championship game.
Because they have the talent to. It's that simple. You look, they have Samuelu running the ball. Leighton Silva is a bit of a big guy back there. Devontre Hale can run with the best of them. Chandler Draxlin has 21 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. No one's talking about him as one of the better quarterbacks. Defense, Evan Tulliard. They're big, they're strong, they're fast, they're nasty, they're well coached. You look at what you want in a championship caliber team, the formula in terms of coaching and players, the Bears have it. It's not a stretch at all.
I'm not cheating. I'm just moving the papers around.
Right. It looks like you're moving those around.
They got stuck in the Heritage helmet. I really appreciate this helmet from Heritage, but there's lots of nooks and crannies in here.
All right, Vinny, this one's for you. Tell me why there will not be a back-to-back champion in any of our divisions.
Oh, my. Well, I think that's, I think that's I think there's a good possibility there won't be. I mean, I think the hardest one is Centennial. I think, can Vista knock Centennial off, which I think inevitably those two teams are going to find each other in the finals. I don't think Kaiser probably is a repeat team. I think you're looking at Rancho Verde and Heritage there. And Citrus Hill's a good football team, but I think you've got some competition there. I think Serrano, obviously very, very good. You have Sanji, is very, very good. So I think you have two teams, and Oak Hill's a good football team. I mean, I think there's a couple teams in that bracket that can compete and give a look there. So I think there's a good chance we won't have repeat. I think the hardest one is Corona Centennial. I think they're the hardest one to knock off, but Vista Murrieta, I mean,
you saw them firsthand.
Yeah, that's a push. I mean, if nothing else, that's a push game. I mean, you're talking about clearly the two best teams, in our area.
Yeah.
So, I think there's a good chance that's a true statement.
Cool. All right, Pep, I'll draw for you as well.
All right, thank you, sir.
Pep, tell me what. This is easy. Really? These are supposed to be stretches.
This is okay. Let's
tell me why Vista Murrieta and Centennial will meet for the Inland Division title for the 4th year in a row.
I feel that one too.
Maybe I'll let Vinny handle this after I say my piece. But I mean, David Zink likes Norco, and I like Norco a lot too. I think as the season's gone on, any team that can play defense and run the ball and just kind of have force their will on another team and just pound the ball, I like that. But Vista Murrieta and Centennial, I just feel like are on that other level. Can Norco beat one of those teams? Can they get past Vista Murrieta? Can they beat Centennial in a possible championship game? I wouldn't be completely floored and be like, I can't believe this is happening. But right now, Vista Murrieta and Centennial are obviously
I think the one team that would throw a wrench in there would be Rancho Cucamonga, not Norco. That's the team that has, the D1 athletes and Nick Baez, the coaching staff.
They're not local, Kyle. They don't exist in my world. It's only Norco.
I mean, I don't know.
Chaparral.
I mean, we all think that this will happen. But if there's one team that can throw a wrench, he says Norco, I say Rancho. Who's the one team you think could throw a wrench?
I think the winner of that game. I think whoever wins. I mean, there's a little bit of luck on the Centennial side of the bracket because they avoided both of those teams. Both of those teams are up dealing with the winner deals with Vista Murrieta. So I think that's a beneficial draw for Corona Centennial. But I think the winner of that game. I think Rancho does some things defensively. That maybe can allow them physicality-wise to give Vista Murrieta trouble. And Rancho's solid in the special teams. They don't turn the ball over much. Those are the ways Vista gets you. They get you to turn it over. They beat you in the special teams. They get you in bad field position, then they let their athletes take over. So, I think Rancho's got a chance there. I think if Norco gets through Rancho, I think, again, they were close with Vista last year. They played them real tough, and I think certainly there'll be some emotion in that game. But I think Vista Murrieta, Corona Centennial play in the finals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Newsflash: Norco and Santiago win on Friday, so hold on for that.
All right. County.
There you go. All right, Kyle.
All right.
Tell me why Moreno Valley is a sleeper team in the Eastern Division. That would assume that they get past Serrano.
No one's paying attention. Moreno Valley has been an 8 or 9 win team every year for the last few years under Coach Ted Watkins. They've got a pretty good running game that is netting them. I think they've had 1,500 or 1,600 yards this year. Justice Tyler's an athletic quarterback. I think Moreno Valley perennially doesn't get the credit they deserve as a football team.
But you were sick last week, and he was telling us about their uniform combinations. I guess they got 20 different uniform combinations, all black. Hey, what do I say? Look good, feel good, play good.
All right, you want to ask me this
one? And talk
one?
good. All right, here, go ahead, ask Coach this one.
All right, Coach. Tell me why Santiago figures out Upland and gets the win this time around.
I think Blake Barnett is the reason. I think he's the difference. Big, strong, physical, can run, can throw. can get the ball to his playmakers and distribute the ball. I think a very winnable game for Santiago. Upland's a good football team. They can cover in space, but I think I might be with Pep here. I think this may be a Santiago win. I like Santiago in this game. I like their athletes. I'm not as panicked about their defense as other people are. I think they're better defensively. You know, Norco hit them on the right night. You know, and the quarterback was down for a couple games late in the year. I think that accounted for some of their struggles, but I think Santiago's a really good football team. I think they win that game.
All right. I already think Norco's going to win on Friday, so this one's for both of you guys. This is our last one. You Rancho Cucamonga guys. Tell me why Norco is the hottest team in the playoffs right now.
Have you seen the way they've been playing? They're the only team to to really come close to Centennial. They won all the rest of their games, you know, fairly comfortably. King gave them a little bit of a run. You know, you look at Rancho Cucamonga, they struggled against Upland in the finale. Upland lost, you know, or barely beat South Hills. We've talked about Santiago's struggles. I mean, Norco's the team. If you look right now, they've been pretty dominant, really, since league play began. And oh, by the way, they beat Alemany.
Yeah.
So
let's not forget about that earlier.
So
in the season.
yeah, I mean, Norco's red hot. That's not a stretch at all to suggest that they're, you know, hotter than pretty much, you could argue, almost any other team in the playoffs right now.
The only thing that kind of scares me is going back to that King game, and they went to overtime. I don't know what exactly happened there. I mean, King's a good football team, but the way they played against Santiago and what they did last week, I kind of felt like that game shouldn't have been close as it was.
Yeah.
2 words, I guess, would be Corey Young.
Those are 2 good words, yeah.
Because that dude, he can ball.
How does he not have Division 1A offers? Can someone tell me this?
No.
He's got some D1 double A's.
On top of it all.
Bloodlines, skill, everything. I mean, I'm seeing some of the, no offense, I'm watching some of the running backs like Washington State. I'm like, really? Corey Young, you're telling me Corey Young's not better than some of these guys? Really? How does that work?
Sometimes those guys just miss. I mean, that's the reality. The reality is sometimes the Division I's especially get caught up in looking at rankings and looking at ratings and and they don't look at just this dude can ball.
Yeah.
This is a dude that rushes for 300 or 400 yards.
Do the eyeball test. Just go watch him play.
Every week.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a competitor. He's a, you know, I said about Nick Fisher last week from Great Oak, but Corey Young's just saying he's a stone cold killer.
Yeah.
He just comes out and plays every week, and he plays hard. And no, yeah, if I was at any Mountain West, I mean, you're telling me the Mountain West guys can't use Corey Young?
New Mexico wouldn't get an upgrade with Corey Young, really?
New Mexico State, New Mexico, San Diego State,
yeah, no kidding.
San Jose State. You're
Fresno.
telling me he can't, Fresno State.
No.
You're telling me he can't play at those places? Yeah, he can play at those places. He would do just fine, and he will. He will. Somebody will find him.
The thing that gets me is, you know, he's at a visible program at Norco,
yeah,
and he's got the bloodlines of Kelsey Young. He's not, you know, stuck up in Boron here.
Yeah, no, he's not hiding.
He's not in Boron.
Somebody will find him. They'll find him. That usually comes out in the wash. If you're that good, if you're that dominant, if you're that talented, and he's big enough. I mean, it isn't like he's a midget. Sometimes you look at these guys, and I don't mean to say midget, you're like he's a little person. But sometimes you look at these guys and they're 5'5" or and they're 120 pounds. And
He's
like, well,
built like a big, strong runner.
He looks
he's
like
buff. I mean, he's got big arms too. He's buff.
They'll find him. Those guys will find him.
All right, before we go, something we always do at the end of the show is we pick an athlete, a player that we think on Friday night is going to have a huge game, going to be the difference maker, and their team picking up a win, especially now in the playoffs. So now we're under the microscope. You got to win to keep your season going. So, Kyle, who's a guy that you're singling out on Friday night that you think will have a big game and help carry their team to the next round?
The upset of the playoffs thus far, Mr. Jamie Taylor over at Rim of the World goes nuts. Another one of those 300-yard, 4-touchdown games. Rim, the defending champ, takes out St. Margaret's, moves on to the semis.
All right, Coach, I'm going to put you on the spot and let you answer this too, but I'm going to go first to give you a little time to think about it. I'm kind of cheating here because I'm going with the two-headed monster because they're kind of 2 guys in one. It's the Norta Vista running backs, Freddie Hawley and Andrew Martinez. You know, smash and dash, thunder and lightning, the big guy Martinez, and the slasher Freddie Hawley. So I think both those guys will need to have big games for Norta Vista on the road. And like I said, I'm not going up there, so that's a guaranteed win. So Novi's going to the semifinals. All right, Coach, who do you think will have a big game on Friday? You can pick Corey Young if you want.
I think this is this question is one of those questions where you could always pick Robert Weber. So I'm not going to pick Robert Weber.
That's the easy choice.
You can always pick Robert Weber. So after Robert Weber,
Colton Gerhardt.
I'm going to go with Unga, the big defensive tackle from Rancho Cucamonga, number 54.
Nice.
I was so impressed with him when we played him. Not just how hard he plays, which he plays hard every snap, how physical he is and how athletic he is, but he's a leader. His leadership, getting their guys to play, coach talking to their guys and encouraging them, helping our guys up after he'd hit them, help our guys up and then hit them on the next play again, and when their guy, they had a guy commit a personal foul and he went over and grabbed the guy and said, "We don't play like that, man." I mean, he's a leader.
You need those guys.
You need those guys. He's a program guy. And, oh, by the way, he's also a really, really good football player. So I'm going with Unga. I think he makes the difference. He gives them a chance to stand up physically against that Norco run game. And I think Rancho ekes out a win in what's going to be a really good game.
So instead of 300 yards for Corey Young, he'll have more like 250.
Yeah. Stone cold killer. What are you looking for? Yeah. He can play for you. Recruit that
man. All right, so there is all the quarterfinal games involving the Inland, the Central, the Eastern, and East Valley divisions. We've got to thank Adrenaline Athletic Training here in Corona for hosting us once again. And Leonard Russell doing his thing somewhere over here. Here he is. Yeah, see, he's got him doing like the obstacle course and shuttle runs and all sorts of stuff, Coach. So, and Coach, thank you very much. We really appreciate your candor and your analysis here. Because you got the ties. You got ties to San Bernardino County. Now you're you're knee deep in Riverside County at Murrieta Valley. So we really appreciate it.
No problem. Love being here anytime, guys.
And Coach, as you said, that all coaches are waiting to be fired. When if that unfortunate day ever comes, I mean, you could pull a Dick Bruick and do 40 years and go out. But if that day ever comes for you, you got a future here. Just don't take our job.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. I love being here. I have a blast. I love it at Murrieta Valley, so hopefully they like me too.
You'll be the charter member of the Riverside County Fired Coaches Club.
Coaches Club, man. I'll see if Coach Gruden will send me a hat or something.
There you go. All right, and Kyle, so you'll be at the Oak Hills game, but you'll also be joining me on the live show, right, on Friday?
Yeah, I'll be coming back down the hill, hopefully not soaked to the bone.
That's true. Just don't forget your Justin Bieber parka.
For sure.
For sure. All right, so for Coach Fazio and Kyle Glaser, I'm Pep Fernandez, and we'll see you on Friday for the live show and also back here on Wednesday at Adrenaline Athletic Training as we break down the semifinal matchups in the CIF Southern Section playoffs. For everyone at HS Game Time, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.